September 19th, 2019. Please rise. We'll pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. At this point, I'm turning the meeting over to Councilman Dean Michael, and he will proceed with this review.
So I handed out everybody the 61 landscaping. Didn't know if you had any comments other than the one that Elliot had brought to my attention. We're just going over the notes from the last meeting, and didn't know if anybody had any further changes to 61 for landscaping. I also, while you're looking, I handed out Ian Schrank's notes on 61A, 2, 3, 66, and 68. So I guess we're not planning to see him for a while.
He's not coming to the meeting.
Well, I know he's not coming today, but
Oh, he's trying to get a head start,
I
maybe?
guess.
A down payment?
So any further comments, or should we move on to 61A, which is now point 1?
Let's start 61A.
Okay. So 61A is now the new 61.1 on lighting. Not much change. There was a couple things that were put in the beginning. Towards the end, there's more of the additions.
It's mainly with the Hamlet.
Yeah.
Where we made most of the changes.
Right, and that's where lighting is most
Yes,
in effect.
right.
We want to look at Ian's comments chronologically as we go through it. For A, under purpose, he thinks there should be an A5 that says to maximize energy efficiency.
Huh? I don't see that.
Why is that the purpose of lighting?
Very top line of it. Yeah, that's Ian's comment.
Oh, okay, I see now.
I mean, that's
A5.
I guess a good idea, but I don't think that's the purpose of what the lighting section is.
Actually,
I think the more of the lighting section purpose is that it doesn't disturb the neighbors.
The best way to maximize energy efficiency is to not have any lighting at all.
Sure.
Actually, if you look
That's called rural America.
Yeah. So, I don't know what he has
We
in
used to-
mind there.
So,
That's not a zoning issue. It's a good issue.
it's a
for-
feel-good issue, but it's not a,
Has nothing
a
to do
zoning
with
issue.
We can't enforce that.
Yep.
Okay,
so anything else in A,
no.
since nothing was changed there? And B, nothing was changed there?
No.
Doesn't mean we can't change it, but just throwing it out there. Then in C, the only thing that was added in, board shall ensure compliance with 250-28C of the chapter and may require such changes as the board may deem necessary. So 28C.
Yeah, and Ian suggested taking that out. He says it's a subset of what is in 61A.
I suggest 28C be deleted as it is mainly a subset of what is in 61A.
What is 28C?
Earlier. It's
That's way down.
Well, this is 61A.
So
28C is supplementary general performance standards. 28C has to do, or section 28. 28C has to do with glare and heat.
and heat.
Glare and heat.
Which, I mean, he's right, it is a subset of 61A, but
Well, yeah, I mean, there's no harm in repeating it, but he says it's somewhat inconsistent. I don't know what he means by.
Well, when you say it more than once, you can have inconsistencies develop just
because of a simple word change.
Yeah, the question is, when he says somewhat inconsistent, what is he referring to? Is he referring to the section here, or is he referring to 28C? It's not clear from his comment which one of these he has in mind when he says it's somewhat inconsistent.
I would say that 28C, it brings up foot candle measurements beyond the property line, and that's never mentioned in 61A.
I mean, that's the metrics to enforce.
I agree. I'm just saying it's never mentioned in 61A. Foot candles aren't mentioned, ever. Oh,
Right,
wait,
but now
no.
we're setting the standards by having that line in there. If we
Yeah.
take it out, then we're not,
Yeah,
No, it does mention foot candles on page 4.
it does,
Yeah, illumination at the property line shall not exceed 0.1,
which is different.
which is different than 0.5, so maybe that's what he's referring to as
There's the
inconsistent.
Inconsistency.
That may be it. That's, so we need to do one or the other.
One is residential district.
Yeah. Well, but the general performance standards is just generic. It applies to everything. It doesn't apply to specific districts.
We're on 40s here.
Here we go.
Oh, okay, so, yeah,
In residential, under residential district lighting, illumination at the property line shall not exceed 0.1 foot candles. Whereas 28C says,
Which was original language, and then
Right.
28C says a half.
yeah.
no use shall produce glare so as to cause illumination beyond the property on which it is located, which is everything. I mean, it's not just residential districts, it's
It's everything.
everything, yeah. So
So,
it's got to be one or the other.
And 28 was one of those sections we didn't touch at all either.
Yeah, well, these are both original wording, so I guess the inconsistency has been there for 25 years and
Right.
nobody noticed it
Right.
until,
No change,
until,
right?
yeah, until tonight. Or until Ian looked at it.
I mean, unfortunately, I don't know what a half a foot candle or a foot candle difference would be.
A half a foot candle is bigger than a .1
Yeah, but what
foot
is a,
candle.
but what's a foot candle?
it's not that bright.
Yeah,
I mean, is
right,
it,
that
is it
bright.
like a candle or? is it-
It actually, there is a.
That's how it started.
There is a standard candle, and
Yeah.
it is the amount of light that candle produces 1 foot from a 1 foot by 1 foot square.
Uh-huh. And if anybody sat in the dark when there was no electricity,
Yeah,
I can tell you, not much light.
I mean, how
They
would
have a
that
meter
compare to
that
something
can
else?
measure
Yeah.
it.
it's not a lot of light.
It's not a lot.
Yeah, it's
So .1 is like nothing.
yeah, it's like your old light meter that you used to check to see what
Yeah.
setting to make your camera so you could get a picture when it's somewhat dark.
So it should be .5.
Yeah,
If
I
point-
think
because
that's
.1 is
realistic.
effectively 0, right? It's
Yeah.
none.
Even the moon's
Yeah.
probably brighter than that.
Probably is, actually.
So leave 28C. And
You're
on
saying a
page-
half a foot candle is brighter than?
The moon is probably
Yes.
brighter than the 0.1.
Yeah.
If, like,
Right.
A full harvest moon. You
Oh,
can
Oh, that's
actually-
.1.
Really, yeah.
That's
.1, not
.1
.1.
versus
.1,
.5.
yeah.
So,
So should we change this to .5 here?
yeah,
On page 4?
yeah,
Make it 0.5 and leave the other one alone?
yeah.
I mean, we
these
can
will at
ask,
least make them consistent.
I mean, unless there's other issues that he was referring to, but they're not obvious if there are. I suppose we could ask him to clarify that.
Okay.
He had another comment too on C1.
Yeah.
Just trying to get where we are.
Unless located in zoning
C1,
district.
okay.
Trying to find that.
Located in zoning district.
C1.
C.
Any neighboring residential property located.
Look, yeah, here, instead of saying located in, yeah, property located in a residential district, he says change it to unless located in zoning district. Is that a 1 or an I,
I would imagine I.
which would be industrial?
Yeah, there's only one of them.
Yeah, but located in a residential district.
He thinks it should say directly, board may deem necessary to avoid artificial lighting shining directly upon any neighboring residential property unless located in zoning district I.
But why? How does, he says that it adds clarity and simplicity.
Because
Doesn't seem
this
to.
doesn't designate specific districts, it just says located in a residential district, so he's like, which would indicate that zoning district I is the only place that this doesn't
Yeah, but where would he get that from?
apply. Because this is something they're saying that, directly upon any neighboring residential property located in a residential district. So this doesn't apply to things located in zoning district I, because that's not a residential
Oh, is
district.
that what he means?
So that's what he means, so he,
What about conservation districts? Doesn't apply there either, because that's not residential.
that's not residential, right?
Only the AR ones, basically, are the
Or the
residentials.
Residential hamlets too, but,
Yeah. But, I mean, it's
Well,
very
what-
small area that it applies to.
What if you were to simply say, avoid artificial lighting shining directly upon any neighboring residential property, or shining directly, blah, blah, blah.
oh yeah, then that eliminates the districts
leave out-
altogether. You just
yeah.
can't do it on a residential property.
Just leave out that, where it says located in a residential district, or, no, I'm sorry, leave the or. So just delete those 5 words.
And that's what it said
And forget
up
about
in the beginning. I
residential
mean,
district.
under the other one, where you're doing the testing.
So it would repeat, it would say upon any neighboring residential property or shining directly on
Yeah.
or into any rooms or rooms.
Yeah. Because otherwise you run into the issue that Ray raised too, which hadn't occurred to us at the time. That C would not be included in this since it's not residential. But you want people there to have the same protections that people do in other parts of
And,
town.
and the other thing is, you're talking not only just on rooms, porches, patios, roadways, which is even more of a problem, because you get blinded when you.
Yeah, should be, yeah, for sure. You should add roadways there. That's a real issue, and,
Yeah. Whoops,
that's-
that's what just happened up the road
yeah,
here.
I know, that's a very important issue, because that's a public safety
Yeah,
issue.
actually, I think there's a V&T law on that, but I'm not sure.
About adding roadways.
So is that what we're
After
gonna do, is
property.
after property put or roadway?
Oh, yeah.
And/or roadways.
You want it, you can put it there too, if you want, instead of putting it at the end, either way.
Nah, just leave it at the end, because it's got all
That's what,
the rooms and
Yeah.
stuff involved, which gets confusion if you put
yeah, so you
roadway
would
in
say
front.
rooms, porches, patios, or roadways, or
Of
something.
any residential property or roadway.
Well, no, you don't want the residential property, because roads aren't residential
Okay,
property.
then put or roadways at the
That's
end.
why I put it after at the end.
Fine, put it at the end.
And we're putting and/or roadway? Or
Yeah.
just or roadway?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Either way, I think it's the same.
Okay.
And we're gonna take out those 4 words about the residential district?
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay, got it.
in a residential district.
Okay.
Well,
Located in a residential district. So
Okay.
from located to district, that's
Yes.
coming out.
Just
Yeah.
take out those 4 words, 5 words.
5 words.
Yes, 5 words.
Anything in A, B, C, D, F, G, H?
Only Ian had something.
No, he didn't
No,
have.
it isn't. Not until D. no.
D.
Oh, I'm sorry.
D1.
Right. I would let that go. I think he's a little bit here with the holiday.
I had written down that question too when I wrote it, but I
Little.
had it written it down the opposite direction than he went. He kind of wants it prohibited at all times, and I was like, I just want to clarify that this doesn't, isn't limiting it to just the holiday time. Do you-
Where
do
we
you see
jumping to
what-
D1?
Yeah, what Ian wrote for
Oh,
the D1.
I thought it was
too.
still up in the
Oh,
upper
I'm
section.
sorry.
I didn't know if
Oh, no.
anybody else had
I was
anything on the.
at B, the last
okay,
piece
yeah, what-
there.
Actually,
Says
yeah.
exterior lighting shall enhance the building design and the adjoining landscape.
Where are you reading? Sorry,
Yeah, that's a.
What do we need that for?
where are you reading?
C, general
Read
regulations.
the bottom of
1B.
page 1.
B.
1B.
B. Oh. Shall enhance.
Well, there's nothing wrong with enhancing it, make it look nice. What's the harm in that?
Somebody may say,
It's
oh,
very
enhance it, we're gonna
subjective, I
put
think.
lights up. Otherwise, they may not even
I
thought about
think like the
putting
next
lights
sentence,
up.
lighting standards and building fixtures shall be of a design and size compatible with the building adjacent areas is fine.
And just take out the
But
first.
that first sentence is very subjective.
Yeah.
So the first sentence out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything in C or D or E?
I don't know. D is really maintenance. Do we care? I mean, people should do maintenance, but that's all it says. They gotta do maintenance.
I mean,
What is
D,
this?
yeah.
D, little d.
Yeah, that's not general lighting though. That's lighting systems used for safety and security.
Yeah, I
So
know.
I think making sure people maintain those is important.
But now we're gonna have to run around and do an inspection of something that normally you can't see.
Well, it's been on the books for however
I
many
know.
years, and I don't know how many inspections we've done of things like that.
Nothing.
E is somewhat similar to, what we stripped out of B in the beginning there. It's kind of getting back into that, consumption to eliminate unneeded lighting, to reduce overall energy.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean about the efficiency? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
The last part of that
Yeah, I
sentence, to
mean-
reduce.
When that lighting is not needed, period, would be fine as
you can-
also.
Yeah.
Sure.
Now, this is an interesting it brings up. We don't have large parking lots, but we do have parking lots at firehouses, at churches and stuff like that. So if the lights are on during daylight hours, can the zoning guy go and cite them?
if it's in the code.
I'm just saying, that's what you're
Though-
saying.
Right.
Typically,
Or Stewart's, or I'm just picking
they
anything.
go with part of the site plan,
Well, Stewart's
which usually indicates.
has to turn the lights off at a
hours of
certain hour
operation.
because
Yeah.
of,
And they have motion sensors on the
And
charging
that's-
station.
And that's in their permit.
that's in their permit.
Yeah,
And I think the same thing is true with the church next door,
But
that the lights can be
I
on
mean,
at
other than the
certain
fact that it
times.
says we're practical, I mean, in essence, this is saying that you have to do it. So that's why it's kind of,
I'm just pointing out, because I go to shopping malls and see them in the middle of the day at noontime,
Yeah.
and they got 50 lights
Yeah.
blaring, and you can't even make a shadow from them.
Yeah, well, these guys, of course, they usually don't do that because
No.
it's a needless expense. But I think in general, as I remember at least, the cases where we've had parking lots when I was on the planning board is that it would indicate that the lights come on at a certain time, go off at a certain time unless there's a special event, in which case,
I mean, obviously practical,
yeah.
in a practical sense.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to have lights when they're not needed. Why are you
It
using
costs
the electric,
It costs money.
Well, yeah, well, that too, of course, yeah.
But if someone goes away for the weekend, or they go away for the week, and somehow, the electronics fail, and the lights stay on for the whole week, I mean, we can't penalize someone for that. I mean,
Or the other thing
No.
that typically happens is the electric goes off, and the electric timers get out of sync.
right.
And
That
now
too.
when they come back on, they're on a crazy schedule. I mean,
Well,
But I
then-
think the where practical
Well, where
is
practical
where-
would
Yeah.
cover those.
okay.
Covers those
I just,
Yeah,
I wouldn't change any of
so I
it.
would just, yeah, exactly.
All right, so I cut off that last to reduce overall
Yeah.
energy consumption.
maybe we'll get this thing down to 300 pages instead of 350 or so. Just take a sentence out here and there.
Let's not get carried away.
Anything in F or
F.
G or H? So now we can go to D with this Ian's first comment here. D1, D2, and E1,
Yeah,
the reference to holiday lighting should be changed and limited to the period of Thanksgiving through New Year's Day, or perhaps a few days before or after those holidays. Do not see why there should be a free pass whenever holiday is near.
I think Ian's got too much time on his hands on this one.
I mean, in the spirit of the holiday, I mean, it's, are we going to restrict
I would-
someone
Yeah, I
putting up a blinking Christmas tree?
Who's going to answer that call?
Yeah, I mean, somebody has
Or a
blinking
lidded manure
string
in the
of lights
window,
in
or-
July. I don't know. I don't think we need somebody going out there enforcing.
Well, maybe 4th of July, the lights.
I know. We can always find a holiday.
Yeah, how about if we just let it go? And move on to the next one.
Move on.
Thanks, Ian, but we'll take a pass on that one.
It was a good idea, but didn't work.
It was worth the conversation.
Yeah.
We'll have a laugh at Ian's expense.
Did you
yeah,
have anything else?
D4 and
D4 and 5, but does anybody else have anything in 1 through 3?
Well,
No.
The sections were added, are
D1
prohibited,
through
is prohibited.
Right. Doesn't change anything.
well, number 2 really doesn't work well. It says, with the exception of holiday lightings, strip lighting outlining commercial structures or used to attract attention to the non-residential use, and strings of lights used in any connection with a non-residential use premises unless fully shielded are prohibited. If you shield the lights, why do you have the lights?
I think,
You might as
If
well
you're-
prohibit lights.
let's say, so there's upward lighting and downward lighting.
This says these
know,
are
so-
the strip lightings.
What you're doing is you're shielding the light to the actual sign so that it's not emitting out beyond the sign itself.
It says
So the
strip-
colors may still be
This says
reflective of the sign.
outlining commercial structures. So say that people put light bulbs all around the
Yeah, so they
porch
put
and
strip
ceiling.
lights on them though that are supposed to be what you would call like scraping the front of the building so it lights the front of the building. And you put a shield in front of it so that the light doesn't go out to the road or out into the
Right.
parking lot or out into adjoining properties. It's just being focused on the front of the building.
But that's not what I see here, because it says strip lighting outlining commercial structures and used to attract attention. If you put the plate in front of it, you're not going to get attention. It seems weird.
So this is under prohibited lighting.
Prohibited.
And all that was added is are prohibited to the end of it. So it would automatically be assumed that it's prohibited without even writing that.
Right.
And for example,
Right.
the Schultzville store
Yeah.
and the predecessors after have had Christmas
Outlines.
lights outlining the sign, and nobody said anything, but technically they shouldn't have done it back when they did
Years ago.
years ago.
Right.
And that applies only to commercial, not residential.
Right.
Yes.
Well, that's because it's talking about lighting of a
Structures,
sign,
Yeah, no,
commercial structure and sign.
yeah, but I'm just saying, just trying to clarify, be sure.
So is there something that you want to change there, Ray, or?
Why would you change it? It's prohibited. Why would you change it?
Well, it's always been prohibited, it's just a matter of.
Uh-oh.
Dun, da, da,
Uh-oh.
dun,
Here
da,
we
da,
go.
da, da.
Hello, all you folks at
Hi,
home. Russ Tompkins.
Here comes Scrooge.
Just on the prohibited lighting, and you mentioned the Schultzville store. I didn't complain about it, but it was always a sore point with me when Gary Stokes had a store over there. and he had the lights on, and there was actually a light on the side apartment that shone right in my bedroom window. And Lynn asked him to do something about it, and he didn't. So I went out and put an extra board on the side of my porch that was wide enough to block it, so when I looked out the window, it wasn't shining right in my eyes. I think that, I find it, I live in the country and I like the dark. And I find it annoying to see all these lights at night, and to see, I think that this is a potential problem when you have lights outlining a commercial structure if there's a residence next to it. So I don't know how you want to address it, but like I say,
So you're in favor of keeping it,
Because
the
keeping
way it
this,
is?
I like it
that's
prohibited,
different.
yeah.
Except that you're
Says
talking
with
about
the
a spotlight.
exception.
Well, it was a spotlight over
is what came into
It was a
his
spotlight
house.
over the door, but he had all the lights on that sign, aimed at
Yeah.
the sign,
Yeah,
and it doesn't matter if it's aimed at you or not. If it's aimed at the sign and the sign is there, it's reflecting the light, I mean, you could go out at night, you don't need a flashlight.
Yeah.
And the most light I like at night is when there happens to be a full moon, and I shouldn't say this, but I used to drive with no headlights at nights like that. You know?
Oh, that's the horse and buggy days, right?
You know, well, the reason the lodge over here
I know, I
made their
know.
meeting nights, when they did, they related them to the moon.
Right.
So the guys could drive. Now, behind my mother's house, there was a shed that was where they used to put the horses when they went to the lodge hall back in the 1800s. But I like the fact that you got some restriction there.
So, anybody want to change anything? No. Okay. Have it 3. Again, the only thing that was added is prohibited. Again, it should be assumed because the whole section is what's prohibited, so
Yeah.
I don't know necessarily you need it, but
Well,
it's more of an enforcement.
the other 3 include prohibited at the end, which I guess is
Right.
why Neil added them for consistency's
Right.
sake. But
Yeah.
they don't really have to be there at all. But anyway,
Yeah, I mean, for simplicity, we could scratch them all off because it's all prohibited.
well, yeah, I mean, sure.
I think Neil was getting paid by the word, so.
if we're gonna get down to that 300 pages, we might.
Okay.
All right,
4.
so 4 or 5, nothing changed, but Ian had some things. I think laser lights and searchlights should be prohibited at all times except in the time of an emergency or by law enforcement. So in 4, it says the use of laser light or other similar high-intensity light for outdoor advertising or entertainment when
Purposes.
projected above the horizon,
Oh, yeah.
horizontal is prohibited. I know that over on 9G, there's someone that around the Christmas time, holiday time, projects onto the side of the house, and now everybody has those little
Yeah.
light clusters that illuminate the house by projecting onto the house with these lasers.
Yeah, and sometimes they rotate patterns, sometimes they make images that
Right.
you buy all different things.
So leaving it the way it is, in essence, would make that illegal.
What is that? Which one are you referring to, number 4?
4.
Yeah.
Well,
Is it projected above? Yeah.
except,
I mean, entertainment.
well, yes, yeah. I don't know. Well, if you wanted to exempt, you can just say with the exception of holiday lighting, which is the same thing we say in 1 and 2.
Yep.
If you're concerned about holiday lighting. I mean, I suppose entertainment could include holiday lighting.
That is an entertainment.
Yeah, I suppose,
Yeah.
so if you want to do that, you could add that at the beginning of that sentence.
Yeah.
So you're saying the holiday lighting, it would be prohibited?
Well,
No,
Or would
except-
you-
Except for holiday
Those
lighting,
little things where people.
Except
the
for
use of
holiday.
laser.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so you
Yeah,
would,
because
right,
I had that on my house last year.
we're coming to get you.
different, yeah. I decided it was.
Well, you're actually in
Kinda
violation
cheesy.
because this is the current code, Nancy.
I know.
So turn
so
yourself
they're
in
not going
tomorrow
over, so
morning.
I promise you.
See, you never should have
Alright.
said
Give
it.
Lou a note.
Yeah, give Lou a note. Nancy will be in.
Dean will be driving around taking notes of people's houses, I swear.
I said an example. It might be a bad one, but I
No,
said it, all
you're
right?
saying here, above the horizon, are you leaving above the horizon in or not?
Yeah, I don't understand if you're going above the horizon, I mean.
Well, it says the horizontal,
The horizontal.
is different than
which is not the horizon. I don't know exactly what the horizontal is. What the
That means goes this way, means this
Sure,
direction.
you mount the light
Now,
10 feet up, that's
The
different.
problem that you run into is
hor-
people are
hor-
putting signs up. They put a roof on top of them, and they have the light down at the base.
Bottom shooting up.
And that it's shooting up. It's not shooting horizontal.
Yeah.
Because if you shoot it horizontal,
But you
the
can't project,
light's gotta be
the horizontal
in the
is an adjective.
sign.
It's got to be horizontal something. You can't project above the horizontal. The horizontal what?
Yeah,
Horizontal
Horizon.
something.
You can say
Yeah.
horizon.
because I mean, you can
Why don't you just
mount
take
the light
out,
on your roof line and
So I'm not
stick
even,
it horizontal.
why
and I think
don't we
that
just
would be a
take out
violation
from
of
when
this.
projecting above the horizontal, period, I mean,
well, what does it mean?
source
I don't
light
get what it
intensity
means.
light.
Well, it means you can't put a light lower on it, where you have a sign here where my hand is, and you put the light down here and it's shooting up to illuminate the sign, that's not gonna meet this code.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm referring to. Yeah.
Horizontal level, is that what you're saying?
Like horizontal would be, it has to be straight on.
Yeah,
Oh, I see.
like this
Oh,
floor
I
is
see. Is that what-
horizontal.
It's very awkward,
It is.
understanding it.
I don't think it needs to be there.
You don't think it needs to be there?
yeah, I said just
I mean, the rest of it
cut out when
prohibits it
projecting
anyway.
above the horizontal.
Okay.
Well, no,
What if you just take it out?
no, wait, what are we taking? When projected above the horizontal out?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, we're trying to get down to 300 pages, right?
Yeah, we gotta
You want
cut
us
somewhere.
We gotta cut like a trillion words to
Man.
get there.
You're the editor, you should
So
be
we're
cutting all of
working-
this.
We're working on this.
Less is more.
Find some words.
We can just cut every other word.
Oh, boy.
Read between the lines.
There you go.
All right, how about 5?
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I think we can live without searchlights.
I don't think I ever saw them in town.
That's because we have them, they're
They're
prohibited.
prohibited.
Somebody,
The beacon up there? Yeah. Yeah, that tower's not functioning anymore though, so.
Title was wrong.
So, E. It has several things in E.
Yeah, he suggested changing the title first off. It's easy enough to do.
We actually have gas lamps in the town?
Could.
could, but I don't know of any.
Yeah.
Some people put them up as decorative in their patio.
Some of the high-end homes are going back to
Oh, okay.
that ambiance.
And, you know, it's the same propane they use for the grill and everything else, or a little heater unit out there, whatever.
Okay. I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
So do we want to change it from exempt lighting to exemptions?
Yeah, that sounds probably simpler.
Sure.
Yeah, it makes more sense, I
That
guess.
saves a word.
He gets one.
We saved 5 letters. And a space, so 6.
And then his other comment in,
I know it's minor, very minor. Line 1, it says lights traditionally used for lighting to simplify or to celebrate a holiday. What is a holiday?
Well, except we've been referring to holiday lighting, so
I understand, but, you know, is it religious? Is it the federal? Is it the state?
All?
all of the above.
All, I mean, I'm just looking at it in a pragmatic sense. Not that I'm trying to avoid having any.
Well, the problem with listing them is that their list, changes.
Or you just say any holiday, state, federal, religious, just put those three categories, because that's generally where they all fall. I don't know of any other category, unless somebody could be smart thinking.
Does the county have holidays?
I think you just say civic and religious holidays.
Oh, that's another way of doing it.
Oh, fine.
Saves a few words.
Oh, we added something.
Yeah, but you know, I just wanted,
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to figure out where to put that so you don't have to repeat it every time. You just say it once.
well, you put it in definition then.
Do we define
We
holidays?
don't have holidays defined.
I guess we'll have to have one. You could put it there, or you have to create
Yeah,
a definition
okay.
for holiday. And then you can put that in.
And we don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
So it's civic, meaning governmental kind of stuff, and religious.
Are there any other kinds of?
Like a birthday wouldn't count under that, so.
Well, maybe his birthday.
My birthday should count.
Yeah.
I don't know about
Maybe
yours.
someday it'll be a national holiday, but that day's not here.
Yeah, okay.
So we're going to add a definition for holiday?
Yep.
And then
Civic and religious.
Limited to public land.
We just took a step backward on that one by adding words.
Yeah.
well, do we take it back out of adding it here?
Just, you don't have to add it here.
No, then you
That's
don't
what I'm saying,
have
so
to
we're not
add
going to
it.
add it here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to add it there then.
So let me go to my
Addition pages.
additions. So nothing changed in 1, 2.
Ian says,
That's a good point.
and it's a good point, this should be limited to public lands. If he puts in a tennis court, he should not be exempt.
Mm-hmm. In fact, at most of the parks,
Good
we have
point.
what are called security lights
That's a
in
good point.
addition to recreational lights.
So what, lights used for playing fields and outdoor recreational uses on public land?
Yeah.
So how we want to change this?
So after recreational uses,
Mhm.
just add on public land?
Lands.
Lands, yeah.
I don't know if there's, do we have security lights in here as being an exception too? I don't, just looking quick.
Well, it does talk about all other provisions of this article. Is there there must be something in here about security lighting.
I meant,
No.
primarily for parks or this place like here. Residential, hamlet, industrial. I don't see it.
Okay, how about here, at the A4, on the first page?
Lighting for a permitted temporary circus fair?
No, above that.
Yeah, he's saying A4 on the
Oh,
first page.
A4.
Yeah,
Oh.
A4 at the very beginning. To
Encourage
encourage
these-
the installation of lighting sufficient to ensure resident safety while avoiding or eliminating, I mean, would that cover the security issue? And then also in A1, promote and protect public health, welfare, and safety.
Oh, yeah, that's what it is, but that's purposes, that's not what you use to
Right.
enforce.
So, under exemptions, could we add a 9 or whatever
that says lights used for security purposes on public lands?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Because we have them here. I mean, these street lights out here.
Lights used for public use?
No.
Lights used for security purposes on public lands, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Something like that. Would,
So lights used for security purposes on public lands.
Yeah.
right, number 9.
We're losing the word.
Yeah,
now.
we're
Oh,
three
boy.
steps forward, 2 steps back. Now, Ian would like to bring it right back down to 8, because he thinks number 3 should be deleted completely.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's not necessary. It's not enforceable. 3 you can't enforce, really. It's a
Well, it
good,
would be
feel-good
exempt- It would
feeling.
be exempt anyway. Like, this
Yeah.
is not a prohibition, this is an exemption.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it's a feel-good thing, but doesn't matter. I'm favored taking 3 out.
Okay.
So maybe 9 can become 3.
Yeah, I would move that up.
Yeah, make 9 the new 3.
Yeah,
Okay,
and keep the other numbers the same.
that's okay.
Permanent, temporary,
These are lights in certain,
Yeah. 4's okay.
Ian's comment is just basically restating it in a different way. Because
Well-
this says permitted temporary circus fair carnival. And he's saying lighting for a temporary circus fair or carnival was operating under a permit issued under section 25075.
but that's the same thing,
It's the
really.
same thing.
Same thing.
So, number 6. Shielding requirements specified herein shall not apply to incandescent lights of 100 watts, 1,700 lumens or less, and to other types of lights of 50 watts or less. Watts is a measure of power, not a measure of the light output.
Lumens is,
I think we should stick consistently with lumens and not bring up watts at all.
well, it's getting to be hard to understand
Yeah.
watts because you have LEDs. and
Exactly. So a 50 watt,
FC,
like when you say other,
FLCs and all that stuff.
yeah, when you say other types of lights, 50 watts or less, a 50 watt compact fluorescent is 2,700 lumens. A 50 watt LED
It's
is like
different.
4,500 lumens.
Right.
It's a really bright light.
Yeah, so,
So
It's true.
we should just stick to 1,700 lumens.
and they're not incandescent lights anymore. Incandescent light meant
Yeah.
that they heated up the filament
Yeah.
and it burned.
When you buy lights in a hardware store,
Mhm.
it has watts. It doesn't have lumens, does it?
Well,
Yes,
yeah,
it
it does.
does.
In fact, the new LEDs will tell you like it's 4 watts,
Oh, yeah?
but
Yeah.
it's equal to a 60 watt light bulb.
Yeah.
Incandescent light
They
bulb
have
that
all
we
the
remember.
conversion stuff right on on the envelope or the
Yeah.
box.
It does have lumens.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Now, I don't know 1,700 is a good number or not, but
Well, that's like, yeah, that's like a typical 100 watt light bulb.
is it?
Yeah.
I just haven't adopted
I looked up a chart just to make sure
Okay.
that was right. It is.
So how would we change 50 watts? Would we go,
I think we should just change the whole thing to say the shielding requirements specified herein shall not apply to any lighting
any lights.
1,700 lumens or less.
Take the rest out.
Yeah, we don't need anything about watts
No.
or
yeah.
different kinds of different kinds of lights.
And the pren's disappear.
So that, if it's less than 1,700, you're exempt, is what this says.
Anything that's 1,700 watts or less.
Yeah.
Because that would basically be
Right.
anything that's a 100 watt
Right,
light bulb.
okay.
And then we got the 50 watts here. It's got to be converted.
We'll just take that out.
We can take that all out. We
Yeah,
can just say
okay.
any lights 1,700 lumens or less.
any or all?
All, yeah, sure.
all lighting of
Next to-
1,700
Okay.
lumens.
Okay. The only reason I was putting any in
What about
was to
incandescent?
allow
Do you need to
the
leave that?
LEDs,
Or less.
Because all of that, like,
you know,
so
the
it
many
shall not apply
varieties
to
of lights is all I was
all
using
lights.
that any for.
okay.
1,700 lumens or less.
Okay.
But we can take all instead of any, but that's what the,
All lights are lighting.
all lights.
Lights, yeah.
Seven?
Well, in 7, I would stop right after motorists. The rest of it is a feel-good stuff.
Well, there's no harm in including it.
I understand, but it's just feel-good.
Well, sometimes that's okay.
Can't enforce it.
Well, it's not meant to be enforced. It's just meant to be a general statement about,
I
Well, that should be in the purpose if it's a general statement. If
Yeah,
it's
right,
in
yeah.
this section, it should be something that's enforceable.
Yeah. Yeah. I just say, stop after motorists. And there's actually, I think, a state law, I think it's V&T, on this particular subject and defines all of that stuff.
I'm fine to cut that out. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah, so I'm gonna take it out. Take it out.
We added a lot of words, so we're cutting more for right here.
Planning board is authorized to allow additional exceptions, subject to site plan review, and upon finding that unique or special condition of site warrant that the exception. They can do that anytime. Okay, leave it in. I'm leaving 8 in.
Okay. F?
Exterior lights. I ain't had nothing. Oh,
Mine doesn't have anything, so.
yeah, okay.
Application for site plan approval. D sounds like it may be on a small residential application, just looking for, you know, a variance of some site, maybe a little much.
Yeah, those things though are generally, like if they know they're gonna use
I mean, something like Stewart's.
ABC
would-
brand lighting,
Yeah,
like you can go on their website and those photometric drawings are there, like
Mhm.
showing you how many lumens are
At
put out as
whatever
it gets further
distance.
away.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not a difficult thing to come up with, but
But
transferring
every
that to a
10
property.
feet
Yeah.
within the property, I think is overkill.
yeah, so, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, the
And 10
planning
feet
board
beyond.
can make the determination
I
on
thi-
its own, I think, without having to,
I think saying computer-generated photometric grid showing foot candle readings 10 feet beyond the property lines would be one thing.
But we're not supposed to be beyond the property
Exactly.
line.
So that should show you 0.
right.
So you're asking for proof that says it's 0. ISO foot candle contour line style plans are also acceptable.
In other words, that's like the contour lines
Yeah.
for distance on a map. That's what that is. That's more work. That's overkill, I think.
I'm definitely concerned on the smaller
Yeah,
application. I mean, someone like I said, Stewart's or a big, you know,
Yeah.
commercial, that's one thing, but to have a small homeowner have to
You have to do that.
draw out that's,
because we have the specification what it's not, but it's not supposed to be beyond the property line
Yeah,
already.
we already claimed that, yes.
Right.
So, I would say computer,
Well, what if you keep it and qualify it and saying
for
for
commercial,
Yeah.
yeah. That would simplify it.
So on commercial, a computer-generated
Or-
photo?
For commercial.
For
for-
commercial applications.
Or for commercial sites or whatever, something like that. And then keep the rest of it the way it is.
For commercial applications or
Fine.
Sites.
sites?
Because these are site plans that we're talking about, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
plan review, yeah. And then we don't need 10 feet beyond the property line because we said it's,
Well, but you do want
You
that,
do want that.
Well,
to-
that's,
you want
yeah,
them
then you gotta prove that you're not.
You want them to say, yeah, we're gonna have zero lighting outside of the property line.
Right.
yeah.
So
But
when
te-
they fail that
10,
test,
but 10 feet
Right.
yeah.
is beyond, because at 10 feet, you could be
Well-
0, but at the property line, you could be, I'll say 2 or 5
You could be
or whatever.
0.5.
well, then why don't you could just say 10 feet within the property or site and at the property lines. Take out the 10 feet, because it's,
That's what I said.
yeah, and
And
at,
the-
right. Because it should be 0 at the property
Yeah.
line, right?
0.5 foot candles is what we said. But
Okay.
yeah.
You're taking out the 10 feet?
Yeah, so it would be at
10
the
feet
property.
beyond and just put at the
Okay.
property lines.
Okay.
And I don't know why we need it every 10 feet within a property or site. It's not that it can't be done, it's just an extra expense.
And that's why we're
For
saying just for
developer.
commercials.
Yeah, Even for a commercial, inside every 10 feet.
Well, we don't have a lot of commercial banging at the door, so.
Yeah, I'm just saying, it's overkill, that's all.
And we like it that way.
Anything left? Go to G.
Number D, number 2, there's a typo at the end there, I think. It just should be a period rather than a comma.
Where?
Additional information may be
Oh.
request, somehow a period turned into a
Oh,
comma.
yeah.
Yeah,
Eagle eye, you caught
There
that.
you
The
go.
editor right there.
There we go.
Caught that.
In G?
He had something under G.
Yeah, G1.
Hang
For
on, before-
clarity, revised to read, other than developments of individual
Shall
single-family
comply.
dwellings
Yeah.
shall also comply with.
Yeah, or shall comply, but either one, yeah.
So after other than, he thinks it should say developments of individual single-family dwellings.
Here, no, here. The word B, shall, that's obviously wrong. It shouldn't be B,
Oh, yeah, that too.
it should be shall also, right?
Yeah.
What are we saying?
Oh, I see, other than developments of individual,
He had two changes in that sentence.
I see. Oh, yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, shall also comply, okay. Got it.
So Russ Tompkins again, are you dealing with the first, number 1,
Yeah.
where it says other than individual single-family dwellings? You want to change that?
Well, we're saying, right after that, it says shall be comply, so it should say shall also comply. Or just shall comply.
But single-family dwellings still are not applicable here. You're not changing that?
No,
No.
no,
Okay, I thought you were
No.
saying including single-family dwellings.
no.
So what's the wording we're looking at here?
Right after that, there's a typo that says shall be comply. Single-family dwellings shall be comply.
Change
Should
B to
shall
also?
also comply.
Undeveloped shall also comply.
Thank you.
And it's gonna say other than,
Now, should it say other than developments of
that's
individual
what he said.
single-family
I
dwellings?
don't see why it would have to repeat
don't
the
either.
word. Yeah, I think it's fine the way it is.
Yeah, I don't think we need the
And
development.
resident, all new and site lighting for developments other than individual single-family dwellings. I
Yeah.
think it's certainly implied.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we changed the point 1 to point 5, so that's done.
Actually shows. Yeah, 0 point, right. Actually, looking back, you don't even need also, because there really isn't an also there.
It should just be shown.
I would just say shall comply. Because he's not comparing it to anything, it's just a statement by itself. Shall comply with the following.
A is okay. B is a problem. The problem is, it says full cutoff type unless otherwise determined. Full cutoff is in many literatures of light fixtures. But when most people look at them, they don't look full cutoff.
What is full cutoff?
Full cutoff means you can't see the light bulb. In other words,
The cover would.
the cover is a box around it and the light bulb's up in the box. Does
Okay.
not stick beyond the
Okay.
periphery of
Okay,
that.
okay.
Okay, for example, these lights out here,
Are not full cutoffs.
well, if you look at the literature, they're
Mm-hmm.
listed as full cutoff. But you go out and look at them, you'll say they're not full
I
cutoff.
think the ones next door are, though.
Yeah,
So
the
how-
ones down
In the
there.
church
Well,
parking
Yeah,
lot.
yeah, yeah.
So how
But
can
I'm-
these things
They
be,
flat down.
how can they be sold as full cutoff if they're not full cutoff?
I don't know, but that's the literature on them. Because I didn't recommend these.
So,
Initially I did, but then when I left, I
So
said
the
use
test,
other
the
kind.
test is actually not what the literature says, the text is what it looks like.
So let's go back to the book. Are we changing anything
yeah,
here?
that's what I'm saying. So what are we removing this? Because
think we want full
because
cutoffs.
We have the wrong things out there?
No, no,
Or-
but I just want you all to understand what it
Well,
meant.
except
Yeah.
that if Ray is saying there's an inconsistency, that someone's gonna put something in and say it's full cutoff, but you're gonna look
But
at
the
it. and-
literature says,
That's
you
what
know.
I mean.
Yeah.
And you're gonna look at it and say, how can it be full cutoff? The bulb is
Yeah, I know.
protruding out the bottom. So if there is this inconsistency, there should be,
'Cause I went through that.
should be clarified in some fashion.
Yeah, I don't
if
know
that's
how
what
to
he's
handle it.
saying.
Yeah,
And then the person says, well, that's what it says in the, in the literature, and you're
And-
saying, yeah, but I'm standing here and looking at it, and it's,
and it's
Blinding
not
me.
okay,
It's
so,
not that, so I mean, that's the interesting problem that occurs with that thing.
so does there need to be, if there's a discrepancy, we should resolve it?
And I don't know how you resolve.
You
Other
go
than
out, and look-
looking at-
you go out and look at them.
Yeah. I mean, I ran around looking at all kinds of streetlights all over the county just to see what the book said and what the light looked like at night.
And how much discrepancy was there?
About 50% difference.
Well, that's significant,
Yeah.
if it's really that much.
Well, Michael, you're the lighting expert.
Yeah, I did entertainment lighting, but
He wants the light on. He doesn't want it hidden.
no, I think they should be full shut off. I think cut
Full
off.
cutoff,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know how we get around it back to the book here. I mean, I think this says what it should be, and that's
Leave
what it
the
should
way
be.
it is.
Right.
The building inspector
Planning
has
board
to
is
I
gonna
verify.
think
be
if
the
somebody can
ultimate
come in with
decision.
maybe an example of the lighting they're going to use,
manufacturer.
that would help them. What's that?
Sue the manufacturer.
Yeah, like, I mean,
Yeah,
How
but
about
I'm just saying
maybe
the
have
words in there.
The building inspector certify that it really is
He won't know.
full cutoff? Well, he can see just by looking at it, that's
No,
what.
but he doesn't see the real bulb on the drawing.
Well,
All he sees is a spec sheet.
He's gonna see it after it's complete, and that's
Yeah.
the wrong time to.
yeah.
well,
I
right,
mean,
but
someone
what if
change
you, so,
something.
okay, so what if you buy the light, you put the bulb in and you look at it before it gets hung up?
Right, but when you go in for a building permit, you tell him what you're doing, you say, yeah, they're full cutoffs.
that's
He
true,
says,
yeah,
great, here's your application.
Yeah.
He puts the whole thing up, and then the building inspector happens to go out during the daytime and notices that it's really not full shut off. And the guy shows him, look, this is what the thing says. What does he do at that point?
Or the neighbor complains that it's shining over
Or the neighbor complains to the zoning enforcement officer the
Yeah.
next day.
I mean, it's a difficult situation.
Well, otherwise you're rolling the dice. That's what it sounds
Yeah.
like.
Well, here's the judge, so we'll get the
Former judge.
final decision.
I thought full cutoff meant turning off the power,
Retired.
No.
cutoff.
No.
But irregardless, I guess what I've got in my kitchen are these things, up above the stove and up above the sink, because you have to reach up inside to get to the
Yeah,
bulb to
that's
take it
right.
out.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, I think it's a little bit overkill to worry about it, because if you go look at C, they've got to be turned off between 10 PM and 6 o'clock in the morning. So whether the light is, the bulb's up here, or it's half an inch below it, what's the big problem? Because most of your bulbs are actually, on the outside of the bulb, they're coated with a silver. So the beam is aimed down, whether it's within the cavity or just a little below it, it's still aimed a certain area.
Well, some of the
Those are
bulbs are actually
floodlights.
shooting up, and then you're getting to that silver, which then,
Yeah, there,
Reflects it
there's
back.
Projects it back
reflector
down.
bulbs where the light is actually shooting
Yeah.
up, and then there's a reflection in the lamp.
I don't know,
Well,
it
Section
almost,
C, but take a look at section C. That refers specifically to motion detectors.
That's
Not,
motion detectors, that's different.
right.
But
So
it
you-
says all
All
fixtures
fixtures.
shall be installed with.
so every fixture that this is talking about under residential district lighting here, all fixtures shall be installed with a motion detector. So it doesn't matter if,
These
the-
are just the parking lot lighting and site lighting for developments, so.
I mean, I don't know how often this is gonna come up with, but rather than sit here and hash it back and forth, I'd say that's a problem that the planning board's gotta do. And if the building inspector goes out and is gonna approve it, he can say, well, guess what? I mean, I've heard this all the time. People come out and say, they made me tear this out and change it and put that in, you know? You gotta, if he goes out and says, sorry, that doesn't qualify, I can't give you the certificate of completion or whatever necessary, then they gotta go back and follow the rules.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think sometimes we just gotta, I mean, we've written down the rules. And the planning board, and we have to rely on the people that enforce it.
In C, the last sentence,
Leave it.
we got, it says, within 2 minutes of the last detected motion, you can barely get out of your
It's just-
car and
that's-
walk
That's
10
pretty-
feet to
that's
your
not
door.
much. That's not much.
It's gotta be at least 5 or 10.
I agree. That's not much.
I mean, if you're unloading
well, it's still
bags,
detecting you until you
It's
get to the
detecting
door.
your motion until
Yeah,
you get
as
to
long
the
as
door.
it sees motion, it's not gonna go off.
I mean, at 5 minutes, I don't mind changing. I'm just saying that it's supposed to keep on detecting you.
But-
Unless you're outside of that beam, I mean, then you just need to
you're
readjust
going to the
yourself.
car, you're bringing in your shopping bags and it's dark. Every
What
2
if you
minutes.
get- Yeah, and if you move outside of the range of
Detection.
then it goes out,
It goes
Yeah,
off
and you're in the dark,
that's right.
after the timing is up.
right?
Then you do this.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Not with the bags in your hand, you can't do that.
But 2 minutes is not much.
It's not,
Change it to 5.
minimum,
5 minutes, that's a lot.
that's not much.
You gotta move faster.
I think we
When
have,
Russell's laying in bed and there's a light shining in his eyes, 5 minutes is a lot.
we have our set at, we have, I think we
You'll
have
have to
our
nail up
set
another
at 10.
board.
I got mine at 5.
And actually 10 is more than we need, so 5 is
Yeah.
probably more reasonable.
And then I have to do
Minutes, you're
this.
saying? Okay.
I'm not, I think 5 is a lot.
That was a way to get along with the neighbors.
Yeah.
D?
That's fine.
This is an interesting feature. There are a lot of people that have at the end of their driveways a light, I don't care what the power is, that is with, so close to the property line, it's gonna exceed the power of the half of candle, foot candle.
Well, even if you have lights at the beginning of your driveway,
Well, that's what I meant, yeah.
lighting poles.
I know this is kind of a crazy question, but what if I have Central Hudson on the pole, put one of those lights, one of their lights? What
Night watchman.
happens then? But we have those. We have them in the park. We have, I'm just saying, what do we do about that? That doesn't meet any of these standards. And I don't know if you could prohibit people doing that. They pay for it.
Are these security lights?
Yeah.
Is that why they did Central
Yeah.
Hudson?
Yeah.
Would you have
Just
to
to
say,
the
Rick?
side, you're going down, I don't mean to criticize, but you're going down A, B, C. I would suggest you say, does anybody have any problem with G? Okay, anything with H, instead of going down each individual one, because I assume, as I have, you've read all this over before and already made notations of what the problems are. So I would hit.
Well, I'm just going in
sections.
order instead of one person saying, oh yeah, I got a problem in F, and then someone else says, well, I got a problem in C, and we're going back and forth. So I'm just trying to go in order.
Well, I just thought maybe we could speed it up by hitting G.
Are you in a rush?
H.
You got places to go?
Somebody waiting for you?
I can't stand looking at you folks that much, you know?
Oh, you can watch us on reruns.
Anybody have anything else in G?
You can sit in your living room and turn on channel 22.
You want to phone it in? Phone a friend?
So we're just gonna ignore the Central
So
Hudson
D,
plan, right?
because it's in
We're
blue.
going to ignore that.
I don't know.
Did we have any
I don't know how
comments?
you would even regulate that.
Well, they would say that they have the right to do it
Right.
because it's their poles or
And
something.
it doesn't meet any of these standards, but that's the way it is, right? Okay.
Yeah, I was just commenting that those lights are typically too much light at the boundary line.
Yeah, well, this is just saying that it can't be above 15 feet. That's all that
Yeah.
D
No,
is
I
saying,
under-
so. It's not getting into the foot
And this
candles or
is
anything else.
Specifically under all new parking lot lighting and site lighting for development, so.
No.
Anything else in
Okay.
G?
No.
No.
H, I had, I do not understand how H relates to G, given a hamlet is a residential district and residential districts are regulated by G. H is looser regulations than G, and in a hamlet, houses are closer together and should be equally protected. I think hamlets should be deleted here. The only difference that Iden is missing the point is that the hamlet's supposed to be your business district. And while his points are taken that everything's smaller and closer together, I mean, there are those instances where you're gonna have businesses.
But, I mean, my recollection is that we actually went to great lengths to, because he says here something about protecting, what did you say here? Hamlet houses are closer together, so should be equally protected. I think, my recollection is we spent
Oh, yeah.
many hours
Yeah, we talked about not shining lights into
doing exactly
your
that.
neighbors.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that we really worked very hard to protect people from being
And
affected
so
by the
we
lighting.
added in the new C here, I mean,
Yeah.
which
I'm
kind of
not sure what he's
addresses,
getting at there.
he's just saying that it's more of a problem because they're closer.
Yeah, what he's saying is this should just be industrial district lighting, right? Eliminate hamlets from this.
Or put hamlets with residential.
Well,
Well,
That's right.
he's
Yeah.
saying as a hamlet is a residential. I know.
I'm just for clarification.
And-
The other thing
And
is.
my point is hamlets are supposed to be your business districts.
Yeah, that's the other part. The other thing is, in A, we have the .2-foot candles, that
Yeah,
should
it
be
should be
.5.
well, except, remember, we may have done that because it is a.
No, we didn't
hamlet.
change that. That's the old,
That's the old
Yeah, this
number.
is-
Oh,
This
you're,
is a-
yeah.
I'm just trying to be consistent.
Yeah,
Well,
I think it
but-
should be-
I mean, maybe the hamlets need to be treated differently in that respect. That's what I'm saying. Since they are much more congested. So maybe you do want to have.
Neighbor's light in your bedroom is not any different than in the middle of the country.
Well, no, but you're more likely to get it in a hamlet than you are.
Then
I
you gotta
guess-
be more careful.
But that's why, that's the beauty of foot candles. It's a consistent measurement.
Yeah.
and it's at the property line. It's
So
not shining in the
this-
bedroom window.
The 0.5, like, it's at the property line.
Yeah.
You go 10 feet past that, it's gonna be down to 0.
So it doesn't hit the window.
I think the inconsistency, we're asking the zoning administrator to go around and it should just be 0.5 throughout.
Oh, okay.
I mean, especially if we, first of all, if we decide to not make this section about hamlets and just put hamlets in the residential district, then it is 0.5. You know what I mean? And then this would only apply to industrial district lighting, and it certainly shouldn't be 0.2
Yeah, but
for
that, I mean,
that.
yeah. Right, but industrial, I mean, that's sort of a moot point because we only have one,
Right. Virginia
Well,
Chemical.
I think,
and that's it.
That's it.
I think we have the one other on Hibernia there.
No,
No.
that's the one I meant, the one out
No,
of Hibernia.
Hibernia is the old Cavalier place.
Right, but that's industrial.
That's an I district.
Yeah, it's an
It's very
idea.
small. I mean,
Route
it's not
9G,
big, yeah.
we have the industrial, and
Yeah.
over there on Hibernia, we have the
But the issue,
industrial.
yeah, but the issue that we dealt with on the committee was residential.
Mm-hmm.
Because the hamlets are basically residential, even though they are allowed to have businesses, there aren't very many of them. There are only very few, so
But
it's mainly
someone could come
houses.
in and still
Well,
have a
yeah,
business.
of course,
But
absolutely.
it's not industrial.
Absolutely, so, no, it's not industrial, but it's not exactly residential either. I mean, it's sort of a hybrid of,
But the limitations of the hamlet is gonna be that you are gonna be closer, so your property lines are gonna be
yes,
that much closer to get down to a half a foot candle.
all right, okay, half is fine, all right,
And then under the blue C,
I concede.
at the end there, the 2 minutes become 5,
0.5?
just to be consistent with the other one.
So we're leaving hamlet and industrial district lighting together? Like, that was the first issue we were talking about?
Yeah, I think it should be.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, effectively, it really pertains to the hamlet, since the industrial districts are very small.
Anything else?
Are we changing the, see, are we changing the timing this to match?
5.
That's what Ray said.
Yeah, okay.
Anything else in H? And then, in the one enforcement, it just added in the look back to the 28C again.
Such changes may include. So the sentence that says such changes may include but are not limited to requiring the installation of lower wattage bulbs.
Lower lumen
It
bulbs.
should be the installation of lamps with, installation of lamps with lower lumen output? Or-
Yeah.
So we don't say bulbs anymore, is that?
A bulb, yeah, that's it's going down a road you don't want to send me down.
LEDs are not necessarily
Yeah,
bulbs because
exactly.
they're flat surfaces.
A lamp is the whole device that has the base and the electronics and
And a glass
Yeah, and
bulb
the
around it.
a bulb is just the filament with the glass around it.
So we're taking out wattage and we're taking out bulb, and what are we
So it
putting
would be
now?
the installation of lamps with
With
lower
lower
lumen
lumen.
output. How many people does it change? You take to change a light bulb? It's not a bulb, it's a lamp. That's like the.
We should just go back to using fires or something. Be a lot easier.
And then we're leaving the rest, the
Yep.
addition of shields right?
Yeah.
The addition of shields.
Not all things come with shields, but you can fabricate them.
Well, yeah, and that's the
Jury
part
rig
where it's
'em.
like, it may include, but are not limited to, so.
Yeah.
The may.
So we're just taking out those two words and adding in lamps with lower lumen output.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, there we are.
So on our agenda, the next session was 66, but Ian's reading the whole town code. And he's got comments on 62, 63.
Okay, well,
If you,
how do you want to do that?
We've been doing it right along as it is, so.
Okay.
62, I think there should be a maximum number of dwelling units on a lot. Right now, the only limits are 1 unit per acre and 6 units that are attached. I don't know that to be true. You're allowed 1 additional accessory living structure as long as you have double the density.
1 unit per acre and 6 units.
no individual structure shall contain more than 6 attached dwelling units, so that's where we got that.
And this is only talking about multifamily
Yeah.
and townhouses.
Which we really don't have. They were being proposed
Here
about
you-
15, 20 years ago off of 9G one place,
The
but
number of dwelling units
never
per
really-
acre shall not exceed the minimum lot area per dwelling unit, so that's where he gets the 1 from, I think. He talks about 1 unit per acre. Doesn't sound, no, that doesn't sound right.
So 25062 is special permits and MR1, CR1, RH, and H.
And they're not allowed in other
They're not allowed in any other sections of town.
AR5, AR3, no? Okay, all right. I believe you.
So multifamily, including townhouses.
oh, yeah.
Site plan required,
Yeah,
and only by special permit in MR1, CR1s,
yeah.
RH, and H.
okay.
And they don't,
Dwelling
there's
units per
not enough
acre.
land in RHs anyways.
Shall not, shall not exceed the minimum lot area per dwelling unit.
Sorry, we're working on a section that none of us, I think, prepared for, so.
Yeah, no.
Don't really understand.
So, I mean,
I don't get that.
part of the bigger issue in town is that every time we take money from our community grant, if you read the community grant standards, is we're supposed to be providing for some type of low-income housing,
Affordable housing?
affordable housing,
Yeah.
that's the better word to use. And we don't. We don't provide it, we don't have it. I know that Morris had, I guess, ideas of using his property over there on 9G to do something. And so I know that he had some concerns with allowing it in certain areas where it would be acceptable.
Yeah, there was another one at the intersection of, let's see, Rusky Lane and, thanks, Hawk Hill.
Bulk Hill.
At that intersection, but by the time they did all the design work and everything, there was not much land left because it was all listed as,
Well, that wouldn't be allowed because as per our code, it's not allowed in that
no,
area.
but I'm just saying, that was one of the places.
But I know
and
that they were talking about-
Wetlands were there.
Where the industrial property is, there on 9G, somebody had come in with a potential proposal of doing some type of a, like nursing home, limited home, multifamily type project.
Yeah. There's really not many places where this can conceivably be done within those zoning restrictions.
Right.
If you're not in AR2, 5 and 3, the rest of the places are too small to even
Right.
pursue it.
And the only CR1 is over in the Clinton Corners Hamlet over there. That's CR1 over there. There's some land that could be used to do something, which is right now a hunting preserve. But there's not too many other places that are going to meet that except for right there on 9G, which I would say would be the appropriate area to do it if you were going to do it anywhere.
Yeah, I
So I don't know if we need to make any changes
I
there.
don't see anything.
I still wonder what he's referring to here. I'd really like to
The
understand
maximum
this.
number of dwellings on the lot, yeah.
Yeah, I'd really like to know what he's referring to here.
Well, this is self-fulfilling. It says how much you can do, spacing between them and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, he may make some points here about references to tenant and rental, which he thinks should be changed, as this rule should not be limited to just rental homes. There's no minimum number of parking spaces, which should be 2 per dwelling.
I think there should be a maximum number of dwelling
Planning
units.
board will
Yeah,
put that in place.
Right now, the only limits are 1 unit per acre. And 6 that are attached. I don't know where he gets that from.
Nobody has been successful in doing any of that I've ever heard of. A lot of people tried, but
Well, the problem is then you would have to get into some type of septic sewer system, and the only one that tried to do that was the minimum lots were up there off of Talor,
yep, right.
where they were proposing to keep the 1 acre lots that they were, and at the bottom of the hill, they would take one of those lots out and put a sewer system in
They
there.
were individual houses.
They're individual lots and
Yeah.
individual houses, but
Yeah.
they were gonna
Yeah.
put a sewer system in, and
Yeah.
it was just,
Yeah.
the cost is so much
Yeah.
to put a sewer system in
And,
that,
and they replaced the bridge. They had to replace the bridge too,
yeah.
because the bridge is not up to code.
So we're not changing any of this,
So
right?
there are no multifamily houses in town?
I think there may be a couple,
Yeah,
Other than group homes.
yeah.
but,
They fall, of course, they're in different categories.
No, I understand, but that's the
Yeah.
closest I know
the, what am I thinking of?
I know there are a couple of 2 families.
Yeah, is there one?
It's 2 families.
of. Yeah, 2 families.
Yeah,
Like in Old Bull's Head there,
Yeah.
there's and it's connected by a roof to kind of escape the
yeah, but
2 houses on the property,
But
but
2 families are permitted in pretty much all,
Yeah.
throughout the town, whereas multifamilies are not.
Right.
2-family dwellings are permitted everywhere, essentially, except the industrial district. Multifamilies are not, so there's a significant difference in terms of what they're allowed to do.
Do we have one on Hollow by Browning?
Well, yeah, but I'm not sure that's a legal one. But it's there.
nice, nice.
Maybe we can ask Ian for clarification, since he's not here tonight. I'd be very interested to know exactly what he has in mind here. Maybe we can get him to clarify this and bring it up at the next meeting?
In 63, you make some type of a setback.
And C2, oh, C2. I was
Oh, this is
looking
for
at
off-street
B2.
parking?
C2.
Off-street parking, located at least 10 feet away from any property line.
Yeah. That's pretty much standard all the way across. Other than for the events thing. There you want bigger distances, but
Yeah, I mean,
most
even-
other places it's 10 feet.
If you were in a hamlet, there was, 10 feet maybe
You'd be in your neighbor's living room.
your property line between the
I know.
house and the property line.
Yeah.
I understand, but
Yeah. I think that's part of the reason why.
Yeah, we're not talking about major commercial or anything.
no.
That's all I had at least. Page section. So 66?
66.
Ellen, do you want-
Go
I
to
think we have
66.
somebody who wants to
Yeah,
speak
yeah.
about 64.
Oh, okay.
Nope, 64,
People are lining up to speak about 64.
okay.
Yeah, on 64, I know this hasn't been changed, but look at section C, any recreational commercial vehicle. I did look up the definition of vehicle commercial because one of my trucks is registered commercial because of the weight, but that doesn't qualify as a commercial vehicle by your section because it doesn't have lettering or whatever.
Right.
But as you may know, I've always had camping vehicles. And so any recreational vehicle shall be parked or stored only in the side or rear yard of the dwelling, and if stored, shall be completely screened from roads and neighboring property. Now, if you ride around town and you see somebody that's got a house and they got the camper in the backyard, to screen a camping vehicle would probably require a fence 10 feet high, all the way around it, so that it couldn't be seen from the road or any neighboring property.
And then you
That would
got-
be more, the ugliest damn thing you could think of compared to having that camping vehicle sitting there.
And then you got to figure out a gate that's 10 feet high that would hide it too.
Yeah. I mean, that completely screened from roads or neighboring property is completely excessive. And I don't know how you deal with it, but I think that should be,
And also in that same sentence, it says, shall be parked or stored, and then later on, if stored. So what's the difference between parking and storing? It's pretty unclear.
Well, storage probably
Parking
is.
is temporary and
Yeah.
storing is permanent.
Yeah.
For a long term.
Like, for example,
Yeah.
you store it all winter
Yeah,
because
no.
you can't go someplace.
Yeah, I think we know that, but I think it's not clear.
Yeah.
There's no,
and I mean, camping is a very popular thing. I just came back from a week in Maine, and you go up there now, it's like it used to be in July and August. It's Acadia National Park that was, if you go around that, there's the loop road and you can park in the right lane. Well, the right lane was just full of parked cars because there's so many people up there camping. You have to make reservations to get in the campground. It's a very popular thing. And I think this is I guess the word is onerous task for an owner of an RV to completely screen it. And I don't find going over, I can tell you different ones I can drive around. I don't want to mention them because some of them are maybe running for office. But I can drive by and see the camper in the backyard from the road, but it doesn't offend me.
Now,
So your suggestion is to take out from and
The
on.
last sentence,
Yeah.
I think that, I just think that completely screened from roads or neighboring properties is excessive.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you take out from and on, it would solve that issue, right?
no, because some people can't put it in the rear or side because they're on the side of the hill.
You don't like the completely screened is what you're,
That's the thing that's bothering me. I mean, mine is, I guess, on a side yard because I got it down
Behind the
partially
building.
in the woods behind my wood pile, but the
Yeah.
wood pile ain't high enough to screen it,
No.
but I've had trailers there since I lived here. I mean, since I moved in that house in
So you're
71,
grandfathered.
Well,
The only issue I think that some people may concerned is you're talking about recreational vehicle, but this also lumps in commercial vehicles
Or a
and
bus.
buses.
or
or a
buses.
bus.
And school bus drivers sometimes are required to take the
But s-
buses home.
But some buses are campers.
No, I understand, but I'm just
So-
you
saying,
got a good point there. Wasn't looking at it from that, I was just looking at it from my viewpoint. but mine is a recreational vehicle.
Right.
And you can have a commercial vehicle on your property.
You
I
can have
can't-
one.
You can have one, I
Right.
know.
I mean, even
But
if the
that
guy's
one
got it,
then would
the
have to
vehicle
be-
commercial by your definition and has lettering on the side and stuff, and parks it in his driveway, I don't think he should have to have it screened.
Or that's what
so
I'm
nobody
saying.
can see the thing. So, it's, depending on which way you look at it, but for me, it's far excessive for my recreational trailer, you know?
Needs rewording.
Well, C may have to be split out, but, so that there's at least one letter dealing with recreational vehicles and one dealing with commercial vehicles and buses.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, in reference to this.
Deborah, I know your name, but
Oh, sorry.
people on camera may not.
Deb LaPointe, sorry. In reference to this, maybe not a camper, but if you have commercial equipment on the property,
well, this is not talking about commercial equipment, just a commercial
Just a
vehicle.
vehicle.
So if someone brings home their work truck, like
well,
a
what
van
about,
or,
what about backhoes and things like that that are on
that
property?
becomes a commercial, yard,
So then it shouldn't be.
contractor's
Contractor's yard or
Okay, so
something.
then
which
it shouldn't be
contractor's
there
yards
at
are
all.
not allowed.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
because we have a
different thing.
situation where we do have that.
Yep.
It is not screened. It is left out on the lawn. It's a residential home. It's been ongoing for a while. So
I mean, I know some people that, like, I know an attorney, not in our town, but in Hyde Park, not too far. He actually has a backhoe, but he only uses it to clean his driveway because he has a long driveway.
Right. Okay, but if you do have that, and it is in a residential home, what I'm reading here is any outdoor storage of a recreation or commercial vehicle or bus, what is that considered? What would a backhoe or?
Wouldn't be a,
It's equipment.
it would be
Okay,
equipment,
so
wouldn't be a
where,
vehicle.
so
A
where is
vehicle is
equipment in here?
defined as a registered,
New York State tag.
so there's a
They don't
definition
have-
in here.
They don't
that-
have to have
No.
tags on them, all right.
So your
Not
question is, where
normally.
is that covered in
Where
our
is that
code?
covered?
Where would
Be-
that be
where
covered?
would
Well,
that
in
cover?
definitions, it would tell you what a vehicle is.
No, I think what she's asking is, where would a bulldozer or a backhoe
Right.
be covered in our code?
Where
So-
does that fit in a residential
Or-
home just parked out on a lawn that looks awful?
Or a zero-turn lawnmower.
Well, that's different, but you're talking about
Well-
contractor's yard, so
If
I would
it's a
have to look up.
contractor. If it's a contractor.
Because one of the things with, I was looking at other, which I think Dean had mentioned one other time, looking at how other towns deal with things like this. And I did take the liberty of looking at Red Hook and Rhinebeck. As a matter of fact, they had here, Rhinebeck wants natural vegetation and materials used to obscure anything in a yard that would be offensive to neighbors. Red Hook also says they preferred a means of natural, like landscaping. So that might be something, where you talk about how would you put something or enclose something that's unsightly to another neighbor, instead of using like a fence, because I had this question, I had said, what do you do with a 10-foot tall, vehicle or backhoe that's on a property? What do you do with that?
when you look in the definitions under contractor storage, accessory use, space inside an enclosed building used for the storage or keeping of construction or other supplies, materials, equipment, machinery or vehicle or parts thereof by a construction or other contractor residing on the premises. Such accessory use shall also apply to other than contractors. So it's already outlining that if you have a contractor's storage, that it has to be inside a building.
Right, and I have a situation where it's not.
Well, except, hang
So-
on just a second. In the schedule, well, I think there are a couple of issues. The definitions, there are two operative definitions. There's contractor storage and there's whatever it is, contractor yard or something.
Contractor yard, yeah.
And those are, I think those need to be clarified, because I read them both, and to me, they say this pretty much the same thing. But beyond that, the schedule of uses, you've got an entry for contractor storage
And where is it allowed?
everywhere in town. It's a permitted use everywhere in town, no site plan required.
What section does it apply to on your scheduled use there?
I'm sorry?
On the schedule of use there,
Yeah,
no, your right hand there.
yeah.
What section does it refer to?
It's on page 8 of the, it is under accessory uses. It's permitted accessory use everywhere in town without even necessarily having to do a site plan.
Right, but it doesn't refer to a section?
No, the section basically, I think, is 250.
Contractor storage, no, it doesn't have
No,
a section.
no. Oh, I see what you mean. No, it doesn't. It does not. I mean, 250-64 is the closest thing, but no, it does not have a section. But then there's something separately, which is referred to as outdoor storage or parking of recreational or commercial vehicles, which
That refers to 250-23.
well, actually, here it says 250-64 in the schedule of uses.
All right, well, I'm looking at the old book right here,
Because
because
that's
this is
what I
the
have,
existing law.
250-64.
In that instance, again, it's a permitted use everywhere in town with no site plan required. So if that's the case, I mean, clearly a backhoe or something, or an earth mover would fall into that category. So it's
So
allowed.
under 250-23, the measurements and use of yards,
Yeah.
that's what that's referring to. So,
What is,
no part of the yard or other open space required in connection with any building or use shall be included in part of a yard, blah, 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 blah. Let me just read on.
It's one page, okay.
I don't, oh, you mean, letter C? Shall not be used for the storage of merchandise, equipment, building materials, junk vehicles, and that kind of thing,
Yeah.
except as otherwise specifically permitted herein.
So minimum yards. Used.
It sounds like you've got there's confusion here between these different things. And I've, actually, I never understood personally how you would, why contractor storage and contractor yard would be different. To me, they're the same thing. So they're,
Yeah, one's storage in the building and the other one's in the yard.
well, yes, true.
So wouldn't
But
that
that
be a
doesn't-
commercial vehicle?
Well, see, but that, I mean, if the
Not
concern is the disruption of the neighborhood and so on,
Right.
then it doesn't matter whether it's in a building or not in a building. You still have these big vehicles coming and going.
Right, the noise factor, the
That doesn't
appearance,
change.
it doesn't, it doesn't belong, in
So-
my opinion, on a residential piece of
I
property.
think Deb's
in a-
concerns
Right.
transcend.
You have the noise of the vehicle, you have, motor noise, you have the visual
Right,
unappeal.
right.
It should be either stored or off the property altogether, or at least screened. And like you're saying, how do you screen something? Like this gentleman said, that's like, 10 feet tall, like, what do you do with that?
Throwing up a prefab building, maybe it gets your vehicles out of sight, but then you've got a unattractive building sitting
Yeah.
there that wasn't there before.
40
so-
years ago, we had this problem
Yes.
on a road,
Yes,
and the guy complained about, and it was a tractor and trailer that the guy drove, and he'd
Yeah.
come home,
yeah,
he'd take a shower, eat lunch
Right.
and so, and go
Right.
again.
right.
So the guy says, okay, I'll build the building. And he built this humongous garage to
Well,
put it
yeah.
in. Now the guy who complained even more because he had a big garage now, which was totally built to specs and everything else. So you gotta be careful what you ask for, is all I'm saying.
Right, but you have to have there has to be some kind of balance and some kind of solution to this problem, where it's not going to affect your neighbors, enjoying their property between the noise, just the eyesore of the piece of equipment there. I mean, most people that live in a residential home don't have a backhoe,
There are a lot of people that have them.
Right, but so what do we do about it?
So let's kind of jump to C back to C again, and if we split C in half and we kind of address address the recreational vehicle, and
If he's not using it for work and he's using it for recreation, then it's a recreational vehicle.
we leave it up to and then, as a part two, then we can say, commercial vehicles shall be, well, if someone's just bringing home their work truck and,
Yeah.
I mean, but, I mean, we
And
can,
he can't drive it away on weekends because he only works 5 days a week, not 7. So he's got to park it at his house.
We did have, I'm sure everybody here remembers an issue, a major issue in town
That's
quite a
Sodom.
number of years ago with, with the sort of situation where people whose name we won't mention were using, basically were using their yard as for contractor storage, and the neighbors were quite unhappy about it. And the CEO at the time, back and forth over an extended period of time, essentially negotiated an agreement that the people would build a pretty substantial barn-type structure and store everything inside and keep the doors closed. During the off hours, instead of having huge earth movers and such things lined up outside. I'm sure we all remember that, because it went on and on for a long period of time. But that doesn't, that solved part of the problem. The part of the problem that it doesn't address, which is a different issue from the one that, specifically from the one that Deb is bringing up, is that it was the site was functioning as essentially an office, if you want to call it that. And so every morning at 8 o'clock, 20 guys would show up and go, hang around, drink coffee, what have you, get into things, and go off and do various jobs. And then at 4 or 5 in the afternoon, the 20 guys would come back and, make noise, whatever guys do. And so even with the equipment being stored out of sight, there was still the disruption to the neighborhood. And having a building to put the equipment in didn't solve that problem.
well, that sounds like
Well,
it
that's one of the
comes back
things-
to
That's
in-home
one of the
business again.
things she's saying. It's not only the storage, it's
Well,
the
that's right.
disruption of
It's
the
disruption,
noise,
it's
the
the
whatever.
noise, it's riding across the lawn,
Yeah,
it's,
so I don't know.
you're in a neighborhood here, I know we're on a county road, but it's still a neighborhood. Our houses aren't so far apart from one another, and you hear every noise up here. Everything bounces off of everything, I
Right.
guess, between the mountains and everything. So it's just, what do you do in that case? But I personally don't like to come home and see that next to me. And I don't want it to snowball. If you bring home one piece of equipment, is it gonna be another piece of equipment that's brought home and left out? It starts to be an eyesore. And again, it comes to what we talked about at some of the other meetings, is keeping our community looking beautiful and bucolic and country and, like the same thing with the lights. You don't want lights, shining in your house. You want to try to keep our area looking, So what do you do? I like the idea also of, how Rhinebeck and Red Hook have natural vegetation used, where you don't have all the, the plastic fences, up, which I know Louis was talking about, which was a concern for him, having a lot of plastic around, so.
The difficulty you get into is, what are you going to specify as vehicles?
Right.
Are you going to outlaw zero-turn lawnmowers? You're going to outlaw push lawnmowers? You're going to outlaw hedge trimmers?
Well, that's not a vehicle.
Chainsaws?
That's not a vehicle.
I'm just saying, what point,
That's a whole different category,
Well, for one,
That's not a
a
vehicle.
backhoe isn't a
Yeah.
vehicle anyway. It's not registered to drive on the road.
and
So it's
It
not.
can be.
Well, okay, but in our definition, I don't think
Yeah.
it's a vehicle. She makes a good point. I understand both your points. Like, somebody has one backhoe, what are we gonna do? Like, micromanage every property in town? That's a hard thing to do. But she makes a good point. What if he comes home next week with a bulldozer? And then the week after that, there's another piece of construction equipment. At what point is there a limit where this is now a construction yard and it's not a residential yard?
but if
And we-
he's not a contractor, how can you define it as being a construction yard?
because it's filled with construction vehicles.
That's, to me, is a construction vehicle, whether it's your personal vehicle or not, it's used for construction purposes. It's used for digging and moving dirt and earth.
I mean, I can
so-
call myself an astronaut and fill my yard
Oh,
with
yeah.
construction vehicles. I mean, that,
I don't,
I mean, he might not call himself a contractor, but, you
It's a
know, if-
construction
It's got the
vehicle.
equipment.
if all the equipment is there, then you're,
It's not a recreational vehicle, really, what, it's a
Yeah.
construction vehicle, so it should be, in my opinion, which may not be worth anything, it should be concealed, at least, follow the same thing where it's behind a building, or it just has some kind of,
Screening.
some kind of screening, where you're not just pulling up, coming down Center Road, or wherever you street, and seeing this big giant, machine out. It just takes away from the neighborhood, I think, when you talk about keeping your neighborhood looking nice.
Well, I think you got a definition problem here too, because you're not mixing,
Yeah.
you're trying to mix apples and oranges in this,
yeah.
Commercial vehicle is not a vehicle, but it can be considered commercial depending upon the usage. Maybe this whole thing
But if
needs to be redone.
but
You
if the
said
guy
something
isn't a
about
contractor.
breaking out the recreational, and then the rest would really
Well,
belong here, would be.
Yeah, I don't know, yeah, but Ray, just because he may not be a contractor doesn't mean
Yeah, it doesn't mean
he
anything.
can't have something?
he doesn't get to skate on the rules just because he's not a contractor.
No.
Because his
I mean, if
business
it-
card doesn't say that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
But if you have only one backhoe, are you saying he's a contractor?
no,
No,
Then
It shouldn't matter
this,
whether he's a contractor.
doesn't
or
matter
not.
so he
whether
can
he's
have a
Piece of
backhoe in his
equipment.
he could
property?
be a lawyer and have a
Right, have a
backup,
backup.
I'm just trying to,
as people
Yeah, and
do.
first of all, I want to say, like, I don't have a solution to this either. I'm just saying, we have an issue here, and a good point has been brought up. You're right, if it's one vehicle, you're probably not a contractor, but what if next week he comes home with a second, and then a third? He still doesn't have contractor on his business card, but clearly, something's going on there.
You have regulations where things can be parked in yards and stuff, which would cover this.
no.
Well,
Apparently not.
apparently not.
That's the problem.
He also has employees coming to his home already.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then,
Yeah,
Yeah, Russell, it says here,
unfortunately, we have to have people
Yeah, we
come
have
to the
have
mic,
have
but,
the mic,
Russell's question, any recreational or commercial vehicle or bus shall be parked or stored only in the side or rear yard of a dwelling unit, and if stored, shall be completely screened from roads and neighboring properties.
right.
So that's the part that you want cut,
That's the way it stands now.
but now somebody comes home with 3 bulldozers.
and all I was saying is that we separate just the, let's say, the RV.
They're different, they shouldn't be together.
Yeah.
Commercial and
So we'd have
recreational should be
A,
different.
and then we could have B, and then, we're still asking for the RV, when not in use, be parked in the side or rear yard, but when it comes to commercial equipment, it should always be shaded and,
Yeah, because that's the issue here, like, this would even say commercial vehicle, and a bulldozer's not under
Right.
definition of vehicle.
That's right.
So, like, we have to have recreational vehicles, commercial vehicles, construction equipment, like, we have to
I
make
mean,
this.
someone might consider them to be so-called, a toy, like men like
Yeah.
their toys. You can go out and buy, someone might like a bulldozer, or they might like something to come home.
I do.
You can't have that, right? But you can't have it all over your lawn. It doesn't look nice, To you, it might look nice, but to other people, it might be visually unappealing.
well, if I take the bucket and I start putting flowers in
Flowers.
it, is it a
Then
flower
it's pretty.
plant there now, or? All right,
You know,
let me do this. I will work on something,
Okay.
and
Where it's like, where it's hidden.
I will
or-
try to make C broken up a little.
I don't know what you would, like you said, I mean, if they use
But then I
natural
would add in
vegetation,
equipment.
Yeah, because it is, like I said, whether you're a contractor by trade or whatever, that's a commercial.
I just
piece of
don't want to
equipment.
lump in, because we only allow one commercial vehicle as it is. So
Right.
if a guy comes home with his work truck, I mean, it may not even be his business, but
Right,
he
no,
may,
I
he may
understand.
have a work truck. I think there was an issue with a guy coming home with his tow truck.
Right.
Did we hear something like that at the planning board, or, I remember something like that. Anyway,
Just so it's not parked in
Well,
the middle of
sometimes,
a
yeah,
lawn
I mean,
or-
sometimes these guys who do deliveries, if their offices
Or if
are,
he's on call at night,
then they'll have the truck in the driveway.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, but I don't think that's what she's referring
No, I'm
to.
not referring to that.
I know my kid's bus driver takes his bus home
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Clinton
That's
every
right.
night, and it's parked in his yard. I know that.
I know, that's what I said.
And there are other places in the town
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
Sure.
you've got that,
Yeah.
so.
so
But you have to,
I'll come up with something and
you're,
we can deal with it then.
yeah,
All right, Deborah?
point well taken.
Okay, it takes-
Yeah, we also, I think when the time comes to do the schedule of use regulations, we also want to revisit the business about contractor storage or whatever,
Are we gonna make it to horses?
and contractor yard.
5 to 9.
Are you looking at gift horse in the mouth? I guess not.
I'm just asking. I'm not saying making any.
Not unless there's only one change.
Several, I guess.
I think Iden,
Ian's got
I think
three comments.
Ian was all over the horses, yeah, right, there you go.
And this was all changed, so
Yeah, let's,
Yeah,
Wait, what are we talking?
66.
Geez, sorry.
Oh,
it's all new. I think it's all
The
new.
next section is like all new.
60, yeah, we wrote up a whole new section on that one.
Why, what are you looking at, Ray?
The-
64?
G.
Okay.
It says no property shall have placed on it an occupied camping trailer or motorhome for more than 30 days in any calendar year. That is,
What are you looking at, Ray? I'm sorry.
Back to 64.
Oh, we're still on
G,
64?
paid.
It's just basically saying that
No, I
nobody
know
should
what
be
it
living in
is.
their camper. And we had that issue over on Clinton Corners Road.
I know, but you get people who are, nowadays, there's a lot of people, the trailer or camper or whatever you want to call them, are their home, and they come visit their grandkids.
Not allowed. And that was the other,
for 30.
and that was the other reason
No,
of
but one
having
one
those.
parent comes, and then another parent comes, and the total is more than 30 days. Who's going to keep track of that?
It's not allowed.
I know it's not
If
allowed.
the neighbor complains,
Yeah.
That's
I'm
right.
just saying it's very difficult.
there was someone that was living in the trailer
Yeah.
for an extended period of time until, I think it
The
was
house
Fennell
was
at the
built.
time,
Yeah, no one's gonna keep track of it, but if somebody complains, then
Right.
they'll keep track of it and, right.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm just saying
take it down to the campgrounds. It'll be legal.
it's really hard to keep track of. Okay.
we gonna end here or are we moving on?
Well, remember, it says occupied,
Yeah.
so you can park it there and go live in the house.
Yeah, but you can't live in it more than 30 days.
Okay,
So you stay in it 29 days, you move out for a day, you can move back in for another 29.
No, you can't.
now for
30
total,
days
No,
in
30
a
days
calendar.
total.
Calendar, huh? Okay.
So you can only have one side of the family.
So
visit.
Russell's only allowed to be kicked out of his house by Lynn for 30 days in a calendar year.
See?
okay.
I mean, I don't know. I can tell you instances where someone had gotten burnt out of their house, and that's what they did,
Yeah, I
is they
know.
lived in a camper while the house was being fixed and waiting for insurance to
Well,
be
right.
settled and everything
But
else.
what you would do in that case, I mean, the simple matter would be you'd get a variance.
Oh.
You go to the planning board and say, hey, look, we got a real problem here.
That's the least of
think
the
you-
person's problem.
Yeah, and I think you'd be hard pressed to find a zoning administrator that's
Nobody's
going to go
gonna-
out and say,
Yeah,
hey,
come
get
on.
out of
Go
here.
on
I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know either, but
You wake up on a Monday morning.
You get a complaint,
yeah.
they come.
But you could get a variance to allow you to stay there.
Yeah.
And the variance will take you longer than the time you probably needed to stay there.
Well,
It may be longer than the
Maybe
30
not.
days.
That's
Maybe
what I
not, maybe not.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
Seriously,
You should
that-
have
There's a
more-
house that recently burned down. They're all living in a hotel still for a few months so far.
yeah, it takes a
I had a
while.
client that had a total loss, and it's been a year.
Yeah.
They just finished.
Yeah, it's very difficult. I would say, I would add there, or during emergency situations. For example, sometimes people, the electric goes off and all, they live in a trailer because they got their propane tank, they got,
but it probably wouldn't be
Batteries,
there for
30
more than 30
days.
days, though, under those conditions.
oh, you don't, I've been,
Really?
What if,
Yeah.
if an emergency circumstance becomes a long-term,
I have a real problem with that.
like I'm not in a rush to,
Yeah, right.
to get things done.
Well, that's the problem when you, yeah.
I mean, I can add in except in
In an
emergency.
Yeah, it just gives them a little flexibility.
Then define emergency.
Well, then it's going to be up to the zoning officer to determine if it really is an emergency or not,
Mhm.
basically.
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right. All right, so that being said, I think it's too late to go any further, so at our,
Okay.
next meeting, we'll continue on with
Now,
the,
we meeting in October,
oh,
that's the,
what's today? Today's
that's the
the,
board meetings
Isn't
on
there a
budgets.
There's a budget workshop on,
yeah,
Yeah, that one-
I really don't want to continue during
starts at
the
7.
budget
First,
process.
third day would be what, the third?
Third,
October
right.
3rd?
Zoning revisions starts
When is
at
it?
7, and highway budget starts at 7 and ends whenever we're done.
so are we going to postpone the zoning
I would
thing
postpone it until after the budget,
until the budget is done?
which would be December, or November, actually, the end of November. would-
So it's not quite 2 months.
You're not happy with that?
Well, it doesn't matter if you're happy or not. We're not passing this law.
Yeah.
We're just creating what we want, make changes, and then it won't be until next year before we institute any of these.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, what time
So-
is the budget workshop is what time?
Starts at 7 and ends whenever it does. It could be anything from 10
So until
to
we're finished with the
midnight
whole book,
or
we're not-
3 o'clock.
And we start at 7,
No, I think it was you, but,
so obviously we can't do both.
No.
You can still go, if you have a complaint though, you can still go to the zoning officer.
You want to
I mean-
do, change it to the second and fourth Thursday until the budget is done?
The second Thursday is the general fund budget workshop.
So much for
yeah, we're
that.
every Thursday with the budgets until we're done. So that's why I'm saying until
And
November.
then you
So
got
what's November then?
So I would wait until,
preliminary budget approval is on the 17th.
I would wait until the third Thursday of November. Hopefully that's not
That's
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
That'll be
right?
Thanksgiving. Well, the 4th is
That's
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
It's the week before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I don't know.
What time, when does the budget have to be finished? What's the date?
20th of November.
That's,
I don't know what day of the,
okay.
20th of November is the Wednesday,
So the 21st is a Thursday,
right?
so we could
So-
resume on the 21st. if
Which
you-
is
What date is
It's the third
Thanksgiving?
Thursday.
Thanksgiving, I think is the next.
Thanksgiving would be the 28th.
28th.
28th?
So the
Next
21st
week.
would be fine.
21st is the third Thursday of November.
Yep.
So we could resume then.
Yeah, that's okay.
So, 21st?
So in the meantime, I'll come up with some ideas. I'll shoot out an email if someone wants to look at it and make
Okay.
corrections just by email until we have an official meeting.
And Lou, we've done some, I think, a good bit of work on this historic preservation thing. So we're going to collect some feedback or whatever, and I can send that in too if people want to look at it.
Okay.
This is 250 whatever it is, 55. Basically, we broke them into 2 sections. So it'll be 55.1 and 55.2. So
So
do that too.
Yeah, no, it's
Next
whatever's
couple
on
weeks or so.
the agenda there.
Yeah.
So just looking at what we left off. So it
So
would
I'll
be
send it in-
66, 67, 68, 70.
I'll send an email to Carol and ask her to post it and Fred in the usual way.
Mhm.
And it'll be the 21st would be the next meeting.
And we'll actually throw in this 64. So I'll throw in 64, 66, 67, so we'll go in that order.
Okay.
And not 70.
It's the 21st of November.
The Yankees are doing something? See, what'd you say, Dean, 64, 66?
67, 68.
Okay, even though there were no changes on 67 and 68.
Oh, was there no?
No,
Russ will have some
No,
changes.
66. Oh, yeah.
Russ will have some changes.
Yeah, Russ had some questions on 68 being those big satellite dishes. No?
I did.
Oh, you did.
I said,
all right.
the big satellite dish phenomenon is gone, so we gotta change it.
But in
to the
terms
small
of the new
districts.
stuff, it would
So
be,
we'll scratch off 67, that's public utility transmission lines, so,
so it would be 66.
They
and-
do whatever they want.
yep, 64, 66, 68.
Okay,
Okay, even though there are no changes? Put them down? Okay.
Yeah,
fine.
no.
All right.
okay. I make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We adjourn.
9:05.
We're returning to zoning revision on Thursday, November 21. Thank you. Bye.